Welcome to NEPM's Live Election Night 2023 coverage. This is WFCR FM and HD Amherst and WNNZ 640 AM Westfield. I'm Monte Belmonte.
And I'm Clee Smith. We're from the fabulous 413. The polls have just closed. And tonight we'll be giving you live results as they come in. And we'll hear from the NEPM News Department, who are covering the 7 mayoral races in the 4 counties of Western Mass.
NEPM's Nirvani Williams in Chicopee. NEPM's Nancy Cohen in Pittsfield. NEPM's Jill Kaufman in Agawam. Sometimes NEPM's Dusty Christensen in Greenfield, and NEPM's Adam Frenier in Springfield.
That's only 5 places.
Yes. There are 2 mildly contested races in North Adams and Westfield, but we will bring you the results from all of the races.
Joining us to bring their perspectives to this year's local elections are political consultant Ryan McCollum and Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle.
Political consultant Ryan McCollum has worked on campaigns at every level, from presidential, statewide, countrywide, to municipal since 2001. Ryan was legislative director in the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. He's spent significant time working at the Massachusetts State House for several state senators and also in the administration of former Governor Deval Patrick. Ryan is a board member for 16 Lyrics, Suit Up Springfield, NCCJ, Square One, and the Healing Racism Institute of the Pioneer Valley, and lives in Longmeadow with his wife and daughter, who just got her first haircut today.
She did.
A little bit of a note. Ryan has done work for the John Kroll for Pittsfield Mayor campaign, including getting a phone call from him in the green room moments ago. So we won't have Ryan weighing in on that particular race very much. And he's also worked on Christopher Johnson's campaign.
Nicole LaChapelle is the incumbent mayor of Easthampton, who is not up for re-election this year and has recently announced that she will not seek re-election. LaChapelle is 2 years into a 4-year term. Easthampton voters approved changing the mayor's term from 2 to 4 years with a ballot measure during the 2019 election. She is currently in her 3rd term as mayor. Thank you both for joining us.
Great to be here.
And you've seen better of the kind of politics that's been going on here, Mayor LaChapelle, that it makes you want to exit this sort of thing? Or what does a night like tonight mean for an incumbent mayor who's still running out the rest of her term and not seeking re-election?
It's interesting to watch the different changes in races, especially for mayors that I first came into office and what they're facing in the re-election, listening to the voters' questions. I mean, I love campaigning. Ryan knows that. We've seen each other a lot on the trail. So it was less worried about having to campaign, but really seeing the different things that voters wanted from the candidates in mayor, city council, school committee. It kind of affirmed why I'm stepping aside. There's a new vision and a new direction in a lot of these cities and towns, and I've done my part.
And there in Easthampton, there is an election today. It's not for mayor, but there is a contested council race, as well as a pretty hotly contested school committee, given all of the drama that many people may have followed with the superintendent of schools of Easthampton and the school committee there.
That's exciting. I mean, to see all of that back and forth during the selection of a superintendent, and then folks actually coming back in and jumping off of public speak and Facebook into a race and having 10 candidates. It makes me proud of Easthampton, and to see people actually getting involved instead of just fading away when it comes down to jumping in and trying to make a change. Cool.
Ryan McCollum, you've been covering politics, working with politicians, working on campaigns. Yep. As we mentioned, you worked on a little bit on the John Kroll campaign.
Sure.
What for the mayor of Easthampton in the 413,
Pittsfield.
the 7? Oh, where did I say?
Easthampton.
Oh yeah, sorry. We just got the mayor right here.
Yeah. Mayor of Pittsfield.
Thank you.
Easthampton's not looking for a mayor this year.
Not this year. What's been some of the things that have stood out to you, Ryan, as a political observer, that have been interesting about this year's race?
Sure. Well, I'm doing less and less local elections as far as like professionally, and what's one of the bigger things that I've learned recently is that national politics is spilling over into local politics.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting nods from Nicole LaChapelle.
And I'll have people on doors, and they're knocking on doors, and whether they're clients or not, they're saying like, hey, they're asking me about Biden. They're asking me about immigration. They're asking me about these things. Like I don't necessarily. Like, I have my answers on them, but I'm running for school committee, right? And so I think it's super interesting to see how, like, the 24/7 news cycle at the national level is spilling over into local politics, where these people who just want to give time to their community, maybe in a nonpartisan way, and there's an issue, whether it's something to do with schools or something to do with something zoning-wise in their town, they're knocking on doors and people are asking them if they support Trump or Biden or what do you think about immigration or gun control. And it is interesting to think that people are engaged, but they're engaged on these national levels that don't leak down to the local stuff.
And we definitely saw that and are seeing it in the Easthampton school committee race, around book banning, around curriculum choices, around who uses what bathroom. And that has a direct connect to what's going on at the national level. And Ryan, I think you've got it. The candidates, I've listened to the forums, they have their issues around school safety, more buses, making sure that there's art and music in the schools, what they want to see as far as, teacher to student ratio. And they're getting these big questions, whether they have a lot of control over them or not. And being demanding, they want a position from these candidates.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And they do say all politics is local, so it's interesting that it has trickled in this way. A lot of the races that we've seen did not have primaries per se because it's not a Republican versus a Democrat, but a preliminary where pretty much everybody's a Democrat.
I appreciate that you know the difference.
Well, we don't always. We were corrected by listeners.
Even people running for office, like, in this primary, I'm like, you didn't have a primary. You had a preliminary.
One other interesting thing that the way national politics has trickled into this has been with money, where certain cities are dealing with PACs, actual, I don't want to call it secret money, but you don't have to disclose in the same exact way, 100%. And you don't have the limits that you would have as an individual to donate to campaigns. Ryan McCollum, who's a political consultant and an observer of politics, tell us a little bit about how PACs have been factoring in to these races that we're watching tonight.
I mean, there's not a mayor's race in Holyoke, and I'll disclose that Josh Garcia, the mayor of Holyoke, was a client of mine, and is still somebody I advise. But the council makeup there in Holyoke, they have competing PACs. And so
that is amazing.
Yeah, there's quote-unquote a progressive PAC, and there's quote-unquote a conservative PAC, and they're running slates of candidates when it comes to the city council.
Now, with the council, I find that really fascinating, considering like the coverage of the council races in this area just across the board has been lacking. Like, trying to find out about, there's so many people and so many seats just everywhere in terms of council races, and considering that we have more towns than we have cities, so wouldn't you think that the council races would be watched? Like, that they have PACs coming in is kind of mind-blowing.
It is a little bit mind-blowing, but it goes back to what I was talking about. So there's a void of local coverage in politics, and so now if you have other things going on in your life and you like politics, you're only getting national politics. And
unless you're actually going to like town hall meetings, and
but
like
there's
making
not the same kind of coverage outside of NEPM that does a wonderful job.
Nice flag.
Right here on NEPM.
We appreciate
that.
that.
But at the same time, like it's tough to really understand that. And I have friends who know I work in politics who are like, "Hey, Ryan, who do I vote for? What do I do? What do these people care about?" Because there are people who actually follow the news, but the news is national to them. There's a void there, and so filling that void, PACs come up, and it's happening, and you see why it is, where folks want to run a slate, and it's politically advantageous sometimes, right? If people are running for Ward 7 or Ward 4 in Holyoke, they don't have a ton of money. A mailing done by a PAC is very helpful to them. Whether or not you think like automatically that PACs are like this secret dark money, a lot of times it's, this person who really cares about something, they can give $1,000. So my $1,000 to this PAC is better spent on shaping Holyoke City Council than giving $200 to 5 people running at ward council race. What are they going to do with that $200?
And it amplifies the issues that the PAC members they want to make sure it gets, right up front. I just want to go back middle. We don't have a preliminary or a primary. We're ranked choice voting.
Oh, yes.
We're going straight. Yeah,
kind of like Cambridge.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you were one of the first. One of the first,
not proportional representation. What is it?
No. It's a ranked choice voting, and then once you get to the city council elects the mayor.
That's Cambridge does that.
Yeah, Cambridge does that. We don't. We just it's all for the races. Yeah. So.
And that is Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, who is not running for re-election either this year or ever again, according to her.
And let me jump in for a second and talk about how commendable that is.
that you're not running again.
No,
Self-imposed term limit.
It's wonderful. And, like, she's a super talented, wonderful mayor. And she's never been a client. I don't know if you've ever given me money to work for you, but she's never been a client, and she might give me client money after this for saying that. But it is commendable for people to step aside from time to time and, like, realize that, hey, I've done what I could do, and there's a movement under me, whether I agree with it 100% or not. Like, let somebody else do this job, especially at a local level. So
in small cities,
commending. I'm commending you on that.
Thank you.
Even
Thank
in
you.
larger cities, right? Like in larger cities, like there's something about being an elected official that it's your time, and then to move aside.
Yes. To understand that, like, progress, like, you may in fact be impeding progress of one way or another by being there. Yeah. There's something to be said for
and
understanding.
And there's plenty of longtime incumbents I love that are great elected officials that have been there forever. And I voted for a long time. I voted for Teddy Kennedy forever, right? But at the same time, like, all right, it's time to move aside.
And that is political consultant Ryan McCollum, who is joined by Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. And we have live election coverage this election night 2023. We'll be giving you the results as they come in from the NEPM News Department. We'll also be checking in with NEPM News reporters up and down the 413 for results and their take on the scene. The first person we're going to talk to in just a little bit will deal with the Springfield mayoral campaign, and Adam Frenier, who joined us earlier in the day to break that down. You, Ryan McCollum, are a lifelong Springfield resident, or very adjacent to Springfield resident right now. Tell us what your take has been on Justin Hurst v. the incumbent Dominic Sarno.
It's been a very interesting race. Like, I handicapped the preliminary and I got it wrong.
What did you think was going to happen?
I thought Orlando Ramos was going to get through to go head to head against Sarno, and I've worked with a bunch of these folks, and I've had to doing what I do, and Justin, in my opinion, overperformed in the preliminary, not the primary. in the
We're all going to learn this one way or the other this election cycle. Whether we'll remember it for the next round is the question.
I put a post out every 2 years and say on Facebook, and I say it's a preliminary and a primary. But so, when I worked with him in the past, he's a hard worker. He's a hard worker, man. He knocks on a ton of doors, and he's got a little crew of people that work hard for him. And then the race kind of developed the way it did. It didn't get a ton of coverage. And then, obviously, like, we don't have to talk about the white elephant in the room, but, like, Justin had this thing happen, right? And so
we should, because there might be people who don't know about it. But about a week ago, there was an accusation that the Justin Hurst campaign was paying people out in front of City Hall on a camera that were early voting $10 to vote for Justin Hurst, as well as offering a free fish fry dinner. There was video of somebody associated with the Hurst campaign. Allegedly, Hurst was driving a vehicle that was picking up somebody who had just received the $10. All of this was ostensibly caught on camera. There were affidavits at City Hall. The question is Justin Hurst silly enough to try something like that? How many $10 bills would it take to vote to make a dent in the campaign?
And the mayor can
Mayor
comment, but before she comments, I want to say you actually couched that perfectly in the right way, right? Like, you said, allegedly, you said this person did this. You said Justin was there dropping people off. So, like, you... Congrats.
I'm trying.
Because a lot of people have
not,
right? Because it's very easy to do a quick soundbite and say Justin Hurst was paying people for votes, or the mayor was doing this and smearing Justin because he didn't happen. Like, you couched it perfectly. So I'll let the mayor go first on that.
Wow, talk about look at the consulting working now. What I will say about that, and is one. When I read it, I saw some of the tape. Why would Justin do that?
Right.
But also, why would the mayor do that? I mean, he's an incumbent, and he runs he runs a strong race. He's been outperforming in fundraising.
Vastly outspending.
And so why would either party do that? Justin is not a newcomer to politics. He understands the Springfield, how Springfield works. He's multi-generational in the political arena, as is Ryan McCollum. So I don't understand either side. Like, what's the angle here?
Besides just looking for a general October surprise.
Or giving us and newspaper people something to talk about for the last week in an otherwise relatively boring campaign. Well, we're going to hear from Adam Frenier in just a little bit, who is at Dominic Sarno's campaign headquarters in Springfield. And we're going to be checking in with the rest of the NEPM News team, who are all across the 4 counties of Western Mass at the different places where mayors are up for election or re-election. We're going to take a quick little break here for our live election coverage here on 88.5 NEPM, and we'll be back with Adam Frenier in Springfield in just a second. The 14th Annual March for the Food Bank Building Community is Monday and Tuesday, November 20th and 21st. It's Monte from the Fabulous 413 on NEPM. I'll be dressed up in a Barbie-themed celebration of drag, pushing an empty shopping cart 43 miles to raise money and awareness about ending hunger in our region. Find out how you can come along with us. Go to nepm.org/hunger.
Join us this week for a new investigative series. Safe Bet. Is Massachusetts meeting its problem gambling mandate?
Do we have the right resources in Massachusetts, and is the money being spent where it should be?
And I might come up and say, "Hey, how you doing today?" And, "Oh, no, I spent more than I meant to."
Do financial problems come before the gambling, or do they follow the gambling?
Their treatment numbers are abysmal. It may be another generation until we really get this right.
Problem gambling in Massachusetts this week on NEPM's Morning Edition.
Welcome back to live election coverage on 88.5 NEPM. I'm Monte Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith, and we are here with Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle and political consultant Ryan McCollum. We're about to talk with Adam Frenier about the Springfield election, I do believe. Adam, you there?
I'm here, Khalees. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Where are you at right now?
I am at Dominic Sarno's campaign headquarters, which is at a former bank on Wilbraham Road. This is where his gathering is taking place, and it's a kind of a laid-back affair. It's a pizza and beer sort of a thing, and just some supporters who have been coming in from holding signs and campaigning, just kind of hanging out. Not a pretentious affair at all.
What's your take on the scene there? Does everybody seem relatively confident? Is the controversy that we were just speaking of rising to the top of everyone's conversation there?
It's a pretty relaxed situation, Monty. You know, people are just chatting, kind of catching up like old friends, and you know, they seem pretty confident, but you know, there's not any sense of nervousness or apprehension about what might happen when we start getting numbers.
And when do you anticipate that's going to start coming in?
Well, it could be at any point. The city has not released any numbers as of yet. Of course, the polls closed only 18 minutes ago, so it takes a little bit to catch up on things and double-check everything. But my guess would be probably in the next half an hour we'll start to get the first of the numbers.
NEPM's Adam Frenier. For those who didn't hear you earlier on the Fabulous 413 this afternoon, tell us what your take has been on this Springfield mayoral election that you've been covering.
Well, I think it's been vigorous in some ways, the preliminary probably more so than the actual election itself. You know, this has been pretty routine until the bombshell that you were discussing just before I came on. And I think it's one that's kind of a referendum on Dominic Sarno's mayoral tenure. You know, I think he's really run hard on his record, and he's put it out there. Either I've done a great job, you're going to vote for me, or you're going to vote for a change. And he's been very proud of his record. And don't forget, his fundraising, as I mentioned to you this afternoon, has just been really, really rampant given where we are. He spent $500,000 out of his campaign account this year while raising $250,000. Those are just staggering numbers for a local Western Massachusetts election. And he's taken this challenge very seriously. It's probably the most ardent challenge he's had in quite a while, and he certainly has left no stone unturned.
We were speaking with NEPM's Elizabeth Roman earlier, and she mentioned that Dominic Sarno got $41,000 donations, the maximum donation, within about a week. Is Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, how mighty a feat is that to try to accomplish, to raise that much money, of the highest donation from that many people? And talk about Dominic Sarno's style as a politician.
I mean, one, to raise it, I think it's, you know, there's some strength as a longtime incumbent. People know what you've done. Mayors have a lot of, I would say, command of jobs, new departments where money is getting spent, and folks remember that. They remember who, opened the program for Parks and Rec and added 15 more positions, and their kid got one, and now the kid's 3. You don't forget that. As far as raising the amount of money he did, I think comes directly to that. And the mayor he is he runs a ward operation. It's ward by ward. I'm sure some of those people have been there since day one. Mm-hmm. They keep in touch with those voters, as do the mayor himself, in and out of the neighborhoods. I mean, it's very difficult to find a neighborhood event where you're not seeing Mayor Sarno. Uh-huh. And, folks remember that. And they, when you see your mayor or somebody who has that much direction over a city, it checks a box in a lot of people's minds.
100%.
Well, we're going to check back in with NEPM's Adam Frenier in a little bit, hopefully with some results as they come in. The polls did just close about 20 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. Before we leave the Sarno thing for the moment, Ryan McCollum, because you won't be able to weigh in when we talk with Nancy Cohen in Pittsfield, because as we mentioned before, candidate Kroll called you while you were in the green room. So we'll leave you aside from that one and let Nancy do all.
Monty's like, we're going to be straight up.
We're going to be straight up and say what's going on here.
The polls after they close.
Yeah. But, however, the way that Dominic Sarno runs in the ward, ward to ward, as Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle just said, that's a different style of politician from an earlier time than is the kind of politician that you're usually consulting right now with that sort of strategy, right?
Oh, that's a big sigh. I mean, Dominic is Mayor Sarno. Mayor Sarno is the consummate mayor. He, for whatever you will like or dislike him, he shows up. He's there. He's cutting ribbons. He knows your name. He knows your mom's name. He knows if your aunt died. He is a consummate mayor, and that works. He's one of the best retail politicians I've ever seen. And that does translate into votes. And so he runs an old school kind of operation. And to spend $500,000 the way he did in a kind of old school way is interesting, right? And so, we were talking earlier, it's not a slick, flashy $500,000 campaign. And that's why some people's eyebrows raise, he spent $500,000, because you would expect you get, a sports car for $500,000. But he's
or 3. Maybe 10. Yeah.
But he's they're doing the workhorse versus the show horse kind of thing, and that's what he does. And so he is on. It's a referendum on him. And he's put it that way, and we'll see how that the outcome is after that.
That is political consultant and one of our guest contributors here in live election coverage tonight, Ryan McCollum. We're also joined by the incumbent and not running again mayor of Easthampton, who is, apart from one council and a school committee meeting, Easthampton is mostly out of the election headlines. But there has been, second only to Springfield now, in drama when it comes to mayoral elections
I feel like this is a pretty clear tier. We're at number 2, and we're about to hit number 3.
Yes. That's very true. I don't even think we meant to do it this way. However, the number 2 most controversial mayoral election in the 4 counties of Western Mass this time is Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And joining us from Pittsfield is NEPM's Nancy Cohen. Nancy, do you want to give us a rundown on the candidates, what you've observed, and a little bit of the drama that we've just been talking about?
Sure, but I just want to tell you I'm at Marchetti's headquarters right now, and there's a lot of excitement here. He's ahead at the moment in terms of the results that have come in. So in terms of this race, in some ways these 2 candidates, John Kroll and Peter Marchetti, they seem kind of similar. They both grew up in Pittsfield. They went to the same high school. They both served on the city council. Marchetti is the president of the city council right now. He's been on it for 16 years. And John Kroll was on it for 10 years. But the drama that you referred to, the first drama came up right after the preliminary election in September, when a former head of a nonprofit, and bear with me, Monte, and everyone else, this is a little complicated, bear with me. The former head the former head of a nonprofit that Kroll was on the board of, accused him of stealing from this nonprofit. He had transferred money from the bank account of the nonprofit to pay off his American Express card. He said it was an honest mistake, that he was given the wrong bank account number. So he has maintained that it was an innocent mistake. And I talked to some voters tonight who referenced it, and they kind of said, well, nobody's squeaky clean. And some of them, and actually all of them that mentioned this, were supporters of him that I spoke to tonight. Marchetti had his... Would you like to hear Marchetti?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Again, it's a bit complicated, but here it is. It just came out last week that a worker, where he has worked at the Pittsfield Cooperative Bank for 35 years. An employee there has filed a sexual discrimination lawsuit and a workplace harassment lawsuit. She has accused him of denigrating her and basically not treating her well at work. It's a civil lawsuit, and in fact, they have to respond to it by tomorrow. The Pittsfield Cooperative Bank says that they hired an outside investigator that looked into allegations and found that they were unsubstantiated previously, and they said they're going to defend Marchetti and the bank itself going forward.
That is NEPM's Nancy Cohen, who is in Pittsfield covering that mayoral race at Marchetti headquarters at the moment. Nancy, come back to us when the results start to roll in there, because we do believe we have results in another race with another one of our NEPM reporters over here, Nirvani Williams, who is covering the race in Chicopee. Nirvani, what do you got from Chicopee?
Hey there, Monte. How are you doing?
We're doing great.
So the results are rolling in. Currently, there's 20 of 21 precincts reporting that View has 4,932 votes, while Del Marina Lopez has 3,639 votes. They're waiting on one more small precinct, but the city clerk of Chicopee said that it's a very small precinct, and that isn't going to change the results dramatically. So View's campaign already called it for him, and so yeah, he's currently going to be elected again.
Unofficially, the results from Chicopee are that
unofficially
incumbent
yes.
John View is continuing to be the mayor of Chicopee. Ryan McCollum, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean, John's Chicopee's a tough town. It's all these towns. You go into these different towns as a consultant, and they go, Ryan, our city or town the politics here are so different. It's crazy, and it's just Massachusetts. Like it is, right? But Chicopee is a tough town, and it's got a lot of different kind of demographic groups. They got an Air Force base there, so they have some Air Force reserve men and who are far right. You got a up-and-coming black and brown population. You have old-school immigrant groups in Chicopee, like Polish folks who have been there for a long time, German folks have been there a long time. And John's he's been doing the thing. He's been grinding out being a mayor of Chicopee, right? Like, he shows up, like we were talking about earlier with Dominic Sarno. He doesn't piss too many people off. Can I say that word?
You already did.
Sorry.
I think it's fine.
He doesn't tee too many people off. And so, John's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. And Del Marina is so wonderful and talented and like fresh air. Nothing against John, but it was actually good for Chicopee to have those two different options, right? Do you want a mayor who's going to grind it out and kind of be there and do what he wants to do, or do you want this new fresh of breath air who might change things a little bit and kind of uplift the town in a way? And you can see this thing coming, right? You can see it coming in all these different cities and towns, whether they win or lose. There's this air coming. There's these younger folks or newer energy starting to come, whether or not they win or lose. You can see it starting to pay off.
And I think you can see that kind of in the numbers too, that that was a much closer race than you thought than I think any of us thought that it was going to end up being, regardless. And I guess the real question is whether people want that new energy, or if they need to have the thing that's entrenched in order to feel comfortable with where they are.
Yeah, I mean, not to keep taking the mic from the mayor, but...
Shocked. Shocked.
Ryan McCollum, Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle.
There was a small indication of this, right, where the new state rep in Chicopee, who replaced Joe Wagner, who's been there for a long, long time, who's kind of an old school guy who, I mean, you go up to Beacon Hill and, like, Wags was the guy.
Just
like
say Wags, yeah.
Well, all of the
He's got a nickname. He's got to be the guy.
So like all of these old school Boston politicians, you think that the Chicopee guy is with them, like that's their guy, right? So he moves and shakes in Boston, and a young Puerto Rican Latina woman replaced him, and he endorsed her.
I was going to say with his endorsement,
he endorsed her. So like there's a little bit of a movement there, and John seems to have kind of stiff-armed it for the next 2 or 4 years. I don't know if they're a 2-year or 4-year.
2.
Yeah, so he stiff-armed it for the next 2 years, but who knows 2 years from now.
Exactly. And there's that with herself, with her getting her seat. You know, she's the first woman on council in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's a little bit of that energy with her to begin with. We'll see what happens in 2 years.
I mean, I think when you're talking about 2-year terms for mayors, one of the things that is always in the back of your head as that mayor is, what is city council going to be like, and what's their mood? Because you walk in with your platform, and if you're not working with the city council or having a good understanding what they want to see, I mean, they hold the purse strings. They write the ordinances, and I feel for those 2-year mayors. I in Chicopee.
You were
and
one.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. Now a 2 to 4 year mayor.
You're
that's
running every other year.
Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. Now, NEPM's Nirvani Williams is in Chicopee, where unofficially they have said that John View, is the incumbent, is once again going to be the mayor. Talk about the historic nature of this campaign with Del Marina running, and with the showing of support that she had in the vote count.
Well, it's the fresh air.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Khalees said it best, too. She's the first woman of color on the council in 10 years. And there were a lot of people at at different polling places that I spoke to who were really excited that a young woman of color was entering the mayoral race against the incumbent, John View. And a lot of people who came out and voted for her said that she knocked on their door and wrote personalized notes to them, just to get them to come out to the polls and even vote. So it is really interesting just to look at the numbers, the raw numbers, and see how close she was to really taking this one and being a one-term, city councilor at that. So I think, as Khalees and you were saying too, Monte, this like breath of fresh, she really introduced a breath of fresh air, I think, to the political nature of what's happening in Chicopee.
Are you at either the campaign headquarters of the incumbent mayor, John View, or Del Marina Lopez, the challenger, who at this point unofficially has not unseated the incumbent?
Yes, I'm outside of John View's headquarters right now. He's at the Portuguese American Club on Exchange Street.
And they are operating as if this is a done deal, and we're still waiting for one.
They are. Sorry. Yeah,
no
they
worries.
are excited. Everyone in there is celebrating. Adam Gomez was there, and shaking hands, and they're pretty much celebrating. So they're operating as if this is a done deal and kind of called it. And the city clerk did say that this one more precinct that they're waiting for the results to come in on is really relatively small and might not even add like 100 votes even. So the campaign seems pretty sure about themselves, but they did unofficially call it.
That's NEPM's Nirvani Williams in Chicopee, where unofficially John View will remain the mayor, with a really fresh-spirited and spirited indeed challenge from Del Marina Lopez, the councilor.
And we'll see if his administration in this term addresses any of the things that she brought up in her campaign, frankly.
I think they will.
I hope so.
I think they will, and that was a relatively clean campaign.
Not like some of the other campaigns which we mentioned. We'll get to some of them.
We're about to get into.
Yeah, there is no shortage of small town politics and small city politics drama in the 4 counties of Western Mass this election night. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to hear in just a bit from Dusty Williams, who is in Greenfield covering that election, and we are here with political consultant Ryan McCollum and Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. You're listening to live election night coverage on 88.5 NEPM. I called him Dusty Williams, not Dusty Christensen. I know that's his name, but, whatever. We'll get it right. We'll get it right on the other side, Dusty. Don't you worry.
How about, I was just...
Take my advice and vote for Mr. Rhythm.
It cost me too much money and it probably ain't enough.
Welcome back to live election night coverage here on 88.5 NEPM. It seems like a lot of races are being called at just about the same time.
Which is crazy.
We're going to call some audibles here with all of our NEPM news department who are on our program that's piping in to the studios here. We had just spoken with Nancy Cohen in Pittsfield. Nancy Cohen, we're going to come back to you with some information. I hope, if you're still right there. Okay, but we'll wait till she's ready to go. Dusty Rhodes, the former professional wrestler, is in... No, I'm just kidding. It's Dusty Christensen, who I call Dusty Williams, who I Googled who Dusty Williams is.
He had to Google who Dusty Williams was.
I don't even believe there is somebody I know, Dusty Williams. But Dusty Christensen, who works for NEPM and also other great news outlets like The Shoestring, which, if you were a supporter of free media, has a challenge campaign going on right now financially, but we'll put that aside for the moment. You're covering the mayoral race in Greenfield. Dusty, give us the lay of the land there.
Well, I am actually hearing right now from the campaign of current incumbent Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner that she has not won the race, which would mean that City Councilor Janita Sorger appears to have won the mayoral race here at Greenfield, upsetting the incumbent. This is news I'm just getting right now from the Wiedegardner campaign. I'm here at Smitty's Pub, where her campaign was holding its election night party. The mood is definitely somber in here. There are jukebox tracks playing in the background, but the conversation has very much died down. It does seem that Janita Sorger has won the mayoral race here in Greenfield.
And again, that's unofficial at this moment, and we'll let you know when we know that it is official, but that is a surprising outcome.
Yes.
Tell us your take on what's going on in that particular campaign for mayor, Dusty.
It is an interesting one, and it really has drawn a pretty heated campaign from both the current incumbent mayor and her challenger. Anybody who's been following politics in recent years in Greenfield knows that policing has been a defining issue here in the city. Last year, Wiedegardner reinstated the city's police chief, Robert Haig, after a jury found he discriminated against the black officer in the department. The police chief is here at the re-election party tonight. Following that verdict, the city council cut some $400,000 from the police budget. That was a decision that the mayor opposed. So this has been an issue that really has been on a voter's mind and is one that DeSorger was hammering on the campaign trail. But when I spoke to voters today, they were also caring about affordability, housing, the schools remain front and center in the city. So some of the same issues that we're hearing from other cities here in our region as results come in tonight.
Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, who is here in the studio with us, commenting on this as somebody who's run for mayor several times and has won. How hard is it to unseat an incumbent in this way from a relative political newcomer? If this is true, again, it's unofficial. We're talking about the city of Greenfield, where it's potential that Councilor DeSorger has unseated the incumbent mayor, Roxanne Wiedegardner. How big of a task was that to accomplish?
I mean, to be an incumbent in any situation is really notable and remarkable. I think that when you're looking at Greenfield, there are a lot of things going on, and some had been mentioned, but also all of the mayors who came in, including myself, COVID was right after we got elected, and there were some hard and fast decisions that needed to be made. Greenfield had a strong commitment to a $20 million library that was already in motion, a lot of juggling. And I'll have to go back to Ryan's comment, the fresh air. So Roxanne was well known, had served in the school committee, And this wasn't her first time out. And she had a record that people could go against and say, not only this, but this as well. And we didn't see that in the opponent, who really had a good ground campaign, it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, that police discrimination case was just a hornet's nest, right? And so, people are like, oh, you should run for this, you run for that. Being a mayor, sometimes you just get a burger. A blank burger.
Right? Thank you for saying blank burger.
Yeah. And you get a blank burger, and you're gonna not the other word, but tee some people off,
right?
One way or the other with that blank burger, and she got a blank burger. And then on top of it, she had to make some tough choices, like the mayor just mentioned. I mean, she had to cut $1.2 million in the school budget. Like, that's hard to do, and not have somebody run against you and go, "Why are you cutting school money?" Right? Like, it's tough, and she had to do it, apparently, and a challenger can just ask that question, and people want a different change.
And
like,
you
they
look
want to
at
change that.
the differences between Roxanne's choices and her platform as a mayor compared to city council. I'll just bring it up. I love my city council.
Yeah.
But and we've got some great folks who are coming in. But two different platforms, two different directions in an unprecedented time, and you inherit what you inherit as a mayor.
A blank burger.
Yeah, a blank burger. I was excited. I was like, are there burgers?
I know. We had Chinese food earlier.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm like, you're going to trip on this.
But I'm still very shocked at the
burger is
outcome.
yours.
And it is still unofficial, but a somewhat shocking outcome that it seems as though Councillor Ginny DeSorger has unseated incumbent Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner for mayor of Greenfield. The other races that is still unofficial, as far as the NEPM News Department goes, is that John View would remain the mayor of Chicopee, and the challenger, Delmarina Lopez, did very well, but it's appearing that she did not win.
I'm astounded at the speed with which we are getting this, but it looks like we maybe have two more sets of results to actually report.
Yeah, let's first go back to Pittsfield, where there has been a more contentious race, where we've already spoken with Nancy Cohen, who has been doing due diligence and covering this particular race in a wonderful way over the course of these past weeks. I don't know if she can hear us right now because she's still muted. But Nancy Cohen.
And Peter Marchetti is walking in right now.
Peter Marchetti.
In a few minutes, I want to address my support.
That was Peter Marchetti.
That was Peter Marchetti. And I think you may be able to tell by the reaction of those supporters what the results are, but give us what you've got, Nancy Cohen. She can't hear because it's so loud there, yeah. But tell us what you know.
With no, I can't hear you. 100% of the precincts reporting, 62% for Marchetti. He's walking in, hugging his supporters. Everybody is extremely happy.
So that appears that the next mayor of Pittsfield will be Peter Marchetti, and that was one of the more contentious races as well. There
Peter
was
Marchetti
quite
is
a bit.
doing a dance right now.
What's he dancing to, Nancy Cohen? What's the song?
I can't even hear the music. There's so much cheering going on here.
All right, well, Nancy.
People are hugging him, and he's making his way through the crowd. And he will speak with us soon. But very happy group here.
Right on.
That's NEPM's Nancy Cohen in Pittsfield, where Peter Marchetti will become the next mayor. Check in with us later, Nancy, and if you've got some audio from the mayor-elect, we'd love to hear that a little bit later, too.
Absolutely.
I believe NEPM's Jill Kaufman is on the line here. It may not have been as contentious or dramatic a race, but there was a race for mayor in Agawam. NEPM's Jill Kaufman, what do you got from Agawam?
Hey there, Monte and Khalees.
Hello.
And your guests. I don't have the official results yet, but I'm here at Chris Johnson's party night campaign headquarters. Right now, tonight is Casa de Lisa in Agawam, and they have taken the win. All the precincts have reported for unofficially for Johnson. I'm sorry, Johnson lost one precinct or ward, as they're called, but this is not official yet that I have heard. Monte, I don't know, or Khalees, if you've gotten the official word from the town yet, and I'm watching WWLP as well. But, he's the candidate still has been here all evening. There's about 100 people in this space. who include the current mayor, Bill Sapelli, who has been a Johnson backer. They're like they did at the preliminary. There are these giant pieces of oat tag spread across the pool table in this case, where they've been marking down all the races from city council, school committee, and of course the mayoral.
NEPM's Jill Kaufman. Any big takeaways from your observation and your coverage of this mayoral race in Agawam?
This is an anecdotal observation of tonight. Is that I think it was more of a nail biter than Johnson expected. Again, we're not sure that confirmed that he is the winner, but that there was a bit of an edge this evening that they didn't expect. That meaning that Cecilia Calabrese did win a considerable amount of this town. The takeaways are that there was a preliminary with a couple of candidates who were absolutely not politicians, but that people want something from this town that they maybe weren't getting from people who've long been politicians here on the city council or otherwise been very involved in the town of Agawam. That's it for the moment. I can tell you more in a bit once I speak to whoever is the winner.
Well, we think from what you're reporting right now that Johnson is the winner in Agawam. Ryan McCollum, who is our commentator in the studio, you did work on that campaign. Is that one of the disclosures?
Yes, that's a full disclosure. I helped Chris with a little bit of messaging and some mailings, but I wasn't his general consultant, and so you can take that from my comments moving forward. But I think Bill Sapelli, the current mayor, people love that guy, and he was a teacher, then he was a vice principal, then he was a principal, then he was a superintendent of schools. And so he had generations of families that are big Bill Sapelli people. And Chris was very smart. He had the endorsement of Bill Sapelli, and those are great coattails. And Chris has been the mayor before. He was Agawam's first mayor.
I referenced him as the Grover Cleveland of Agawam.
Or the George Washington.
Saying that.
Well, Cleveland was president and then wasn't, and then was again.
Got you.
Yeah.
Right. Got
And we might have that happen again very shortly in the U.S. politics.
Hopefully not.
We're not talking. That is not the election that we are here to cover.
NEPM does not take sides.
We are here to
I'm just observing that it's a possibility of something that could happen.
Let's not.
Chris ran a smart campaign. Sapelli was a supporter. But with that said, speaking of that person you just spoke of that I won't say any names, he's popular in Agawam. And it was two Republicans running against each other. And Chris
in a preliminary. Not a primary.
In a preliminary. But his opponent is very much a Trump person. And she got a lot of support because she's a Trump person. And Chris is very much like a Baker Republican, right? And so to the point where there was a mailing that went out from the Republican state committee against Chris, who is a Republican, right? And so he's not far enough right, I guess. But Agawam still seems like pulled it out for Chris.
It just seems like the part of PACs that make it, I know that it makes it sort of simplified to just get a sheet of who you should vote for with your things. But it also seems incredibly terrifying that this would be the line that gets drawn in races like this when it should really matter more on a micro scale.
Yeah, I mean, at that level, you're right? And so, again, there's a void outside of NEPM for local politics. And so people who are political people, even who do it as a hobby, they're engrossed in these national politics. And that's what matters to them when you knock on doors, even though the new high school in East Longmeadow or the development, I'm missing a town meeting in Longmeadow because there's a new development that we have to vote for. Those local things matter more, but there's no coverage of it the same way.
Well, we're trying to do our best here at NEPM. This is our first election night coverage in the entire time I've been listening to NEPM, and I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm Monte Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith.
And we're joined by political consultant Ryan McCollum and the incumbent mayor of Easthampton, who will not be seeking re-election, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. We don't have any results from the hotly contested Springfield race, but we have some unofficial numbers. And
it is
NEPM's
tight.
Adam Frenier is standing by. Adam, tell us what you are seeing in Springfield at the moment.
According to the city clerk's office, about 43% of the vote, and Dominic Sarno has about 150 vote lead at this point. We're not sure exactly where in the city those votes are coming from, but it's quite tight right now and still about half the vote out there.
Okay, so with about 50% reporting, a very narrow lead from the longtime incumbent mayor of Springfield, who spent a great deal of money on his reelection campaign. And however, with this city councilor, who's also very popular and a beloved child of a former candidate for mayor of Springfield, Justin Hurst, giving a great showing. I think we're going to take a little break in just a second, but right now we'll give you a rundown of what we know, or what we think we know at the moment. So much of this is still very unofficial, but a lot of it is extraordinarily interesting. In Chicopee, for that mayoral race, it looks like the incumbent mayor, John View, after a great showing by City Councilor Delmarina Lopez, has eked out a win and will remain mayor, perhaps in...
Oh, no, I was just going to keep going on down city. So in Greenfield, it looks as if the challenger, Ginny Disorder, has unseated the incumbent Roxanne Wiedegardner.
And we did have Dusty Christensen there at the Wiedegardner campaign headquarters, where the mood did seem to reflect that, even though the results are not officially in.
Right.
In North Adams, which we haven't spoken about yet, we were getting early results in, from the mayor of Easthampton at least, that Jennifer Maxey had about a 10-fold lead over the challenger April Carcino. We did just hear from Adam Frenier about the Springfield race, which is tight, and we may end up until 10 o'clock when this broadcast will end, waiting to see the results of that with only 50% reported.
Indeed. And no word back from Westfield yet, but considering their web pages, I'm not entirely surprised by that. That's been a sleepy race from what we know about it anyway, so it'll be interesting just in general to see if McCabe is able to just, hang on to his seat there.
Mm-hmm. Of all of these races, let's just take the two big ones that in my mind are the most extraordinary before we end up taking this break. There is the really tight race with 50% reporting with Mayor Sarno. Give us your take, Ryan McCollum, on that so far.
Well, I've been getting some text messages, and so I'm trying to put my Springfield hat on. And I'm
a son of Springfield, yeah.
I'm very much a son of Springfield. So I'm looking at the at-large races, and I'm seeing.
Oh yeah.
So I'm seeing what the numbers are in the at-large race to get a sense of what wards have came in and what wards haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And black and brown folks are doing very well right now. So my sense, what I'm gleaning, is black and brown wards are in, and the other wards are not in.
Right.
Which would not help Justin.
Right.
However, if 50% are in and there is such a narrow margin, that could still mean that the incumbent mayor is in somewhat more jeopardy than maybe he anticipated.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, the white vote is still out.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
I'm just saying, I'll be frank about it, right?
Yeah.
And so the white vote's still out. Ward 7, where I grew up, happened to be the white vote, Frederick Harris. It sounds like that's not in yet. And when that comes in, it's going to probably
be more indicative of what is going to happen.
But who knows, right? We've seen stranger things happen. Even with those precincts and wards reporting as close as it is, that's close. That's closer than I called it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Nobody know. I don't know what's in and what's out, but from looking at the at-large margins, it looks like Ward 4, which is Mason Square.
Me. I'm Ward 4.
Ward 1 is in. There's certain wards that are in, and certain wards that are still out.
So that's very interesting. However, still relatively tight race in Springfield, not called yet on either side. The other race that it appears to be surprising is in Greenfield, where the incumbent mayor and longtime political mover and shaker in Greenfield, Roxanne Wiedegardner, appears to have been unseated by Ginny Disorder. Your take on either of these races, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle?
Well, first with the Springfield race, it sounds like 50%, and this is a close race. I agree with Ryan. It really depends where those votes are from. And if you're waiting on 7th, that is a big deal ward. They vote, they organize, and that could be the turning point. Right. For both candidates. In Greenfield, again, I'll go back to, I'm really harping on city councils tonight.
Sure.
I'd love to see.
But that's important. I really wish that more people would do this.
Yeah.
Like city council races and town council races are really, really important. It's like the disconnect between understanding what Congress does and what the president does. The president doesn't have nearly as much power as we actually think he does. Those laws, they come from Congress. They. Gender neutral pronouns are easy. They don't, like, all those rules, all those regulations that people are upset about, those come from Congress.
100%.
And the same thing happens like further down the line with towns and cities. Like, it's the council that makes and sets those regulations. So those are the races that people should really be into, like, along with mayors. Not that it's not also important, but like
very important. Mayors are
nothing
very
against
important.
you, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle.
But the mayor can speak to it even more than anybody else.
Yeah, continue your thought on that.
Well, I'd love to see what is going on with the council races, because the last 2 years, the council was very progressive, and they did cut the police budget. Would love to see the follow-through and the connection between city council in Greenfield and what it may be dripped over into the mayor's race. I think that'll be an interesting tale for us wonks who look at those things.
Well, it's interesting to note that the city council in Greenfield did significantly cut the police budget in the midst of all of the drama surrounding the police chief, Robert Haig, who was found not guilty, but was found to have committed racial animus by a jury. And then subsequently the city council cuts the police budget. The police then threatened to take away the night shifts. Also, much of this may actually be surrounding the police issue. From what I'm gathering from the progressive end of town of Greenfield, that they were much more in favor of Ginny DeSorger in that regard, and we're in favor of the cutting of the police budget. And so you may be exactly right that these council races, and as Khalees mentioned, are very important and may be the weather vane of what has happened here in Greenfield.
And Greenfield has some history in running in slates. And even up into the mayor's race, and we've seen that in the past. So again, I really want to take a good look at those numbers. And
the slates, for people who don't know what a slate is, it's basically like these are all the candidates this group of people like. Mm-hmm. And so you have a slate of candidates, and now back to the PACs, right? So now we have local PACs. Now PACs are putting money behind slates, and it's kind of a different world. And in Holyoke, I got some. I don't know if I have to put this through your newsroom.
Well, we can say.
According to looking at your
consultant Ryan McCollum, we can
I don't
say,
think he
but
cares,
unofficially.
But according to the mayor of Holyoke, Cocaine Givner won Ward 4, and Megan McGrath won Ward 7. Two big wards in Holyoke. Holyoke had some folks retire, a lot of institutional knowledge retire, 2 at-large city councilors. And then Todd McGee, who was a ward councilor, who was the city council president and a longtime city councilor, all retired. And those 2 folks are on the progressive side of Holyoke.
Right.
And those PACs that you were mentioning were supporting slates of progressive or slates of, I don't want to call it 100%. The old brigade, but institutionalized Holyoke, the old guard. Yeah. That's political commentator Ryan McCollum, who's joining us for live election night coverage, as well as the mayor of Easthampton. And we hope to get some details that I'm sure you're getting, Mayor, from Easthampton, where there is a council race, where the school committee race is interesting. You've also got some interesting takes on how national elections are playing out right there. What do you got for Westfield elections there, Khalees?
So it looks like McCabe is going to hang on to his seat with 100% reporting. It looks like he's won 76% of the vote, getting 4,500 votes, a little bit over. Not particularly surprising from a race that was also a little lackluster kind of across the board.
We believe that in the Chicopee mayoral race that John View will remain the mayor after a strong showing from City Councilor Delmarina Lopez. We've also believed that Ginny DeSorger, the city councilor, has unseated the incumbent mayor, Roxanne Wiedegardner. North Adams mayoral results that Jennifer Maxey would remain the mayor there. Springfield mayoral results, 50% reporting, a tight race at the moment, but still with 50% of the vote out there. And Westfield, as Khalees just mentioned, Michael McCabe. Did I miss any? Am I missing any of those? I think we got them all.
Can I just point out in Westfield, so McCabe holds on to his seat. Yes. But then when you go to, again, city council at large, Kristen Mello won a seat there.
Yeah, that's important to note.
Tell us why.
Because do you want to go on how this is strange?
Let's let the mayor go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is Westfield, you can take out, and this happened with a couple of other candidates, you could take out papers for more than one seat. And to have that not happen, it's a charter change, which is a big deal and a long process. So I don't know. I just put myself in that place. I'm not sure if I ran for mayor and my opponent all of a sudden is at-large city council. I mean, talk about what the council looks like.
Right.
That's a twist.
It's a twist.
It's a twist.
So imagine if Justin Hurst could still run for at-large city council and run for mayor.
Yeah.
And then if he loses for mayor, he's still on the council.
Yeah. It's like my friends who love the Patriots but bet against the Patriots. So either way, they win.
Well, we're new friends. I'm a Patriots fan, but I bet against them.
Well, I mean, this year, yes. Don't bet for the Patriots.
I am
this
a
year.
Gambling man as well.
No.
Yeah. And my new friend is Ryan McCollum. Let's take a little break. We'll come back. We'll reset. We'll give you the results as we have them. And we will continue live election night coverage here on WFCR FM and HD Amherst and WNNZ 640 AM Westfield 88.5 NEPM.
You gotta vote.
It cost me too much money, and it probably ain't enough to get me through.
Questions.
We all have questions. That's
Seriously.
why we're here doing this live on election night. It's 88.5 NEPM's live election night coverage. I'm Monte Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith with questions.
Yes, and to answer some of those questions, or at least pontificate upon them, political consultant Ryan McCollum and Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, who is not running for re-election this year or any other year. The political winds of change may be afoot in Easthampton, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But Nancy Cohen joins us again from Pittsfield to give us the latest on that race, where we heard a loud cheer from supporters of Peter Marchetti, who is running for mayor of that town of Pittsfield. Tell us what you know now, Nancy Cohen.
Hey, Nancy.
Hi.
Hi. Did you get a chance to talk to the what looks to be mayor-elect of Pittsfield?
Yes, I did, and he gave a speech. And one thing he did that was very sweet is he raised a bottle of Budweiser to his partner, who has passed away. So that was very sweet when he started to give his speech to the crowd. He says he's already meeting with Linda Tyre, the current mayor, tomorrow morning, and he expects to be able to hit the ground running when he's sworn in January.
Tell us on your take on Peter Marchetti, the human being, and Peter Marchetti, the now mayor-elect of the city of Pittsfield.
My take on him?
Sure.
He seems like a really sweet guy. He's good and a hard worker. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's dealing with this lawsuit, and he said he expects there's going to be news out soon about it that he implied would clear him, but he wouldn't talk about it except to say that there might be something coming out soon. He seemed, during the campaign when he talked about the issues, he seemed more interested in finding solutions to difficult problems, such as putting together a task force of mental health agencies and other kinds of agencies that deal with social service issues to try to find answers to the problems of people without housing, to people that are addicted and that are struggling and that are raising concerns for people in the city. So he's looking for intervention and solutions to these problems rather than trying to clear people away from the streets.
It seems that the recent controversy surrounding Peter Marchetti didn't have an effect tonight. Do you think that the drama that was surrounding candidate Kroll and the controversy with potentially mishandling funds from a nonprofit was the downfall of Kroll, or was it something else from what you can perceive?
I don't think that was the problem. Before I came over here to Marchetti's headquarters, I talked to voters before the polls were closed, and actually there were more voters I talked to who voted for Kroll than for Marchetti, as it turns out. And they were saying things like, you know, if I had to choose between theft and sexual discrimination, I would choose theft. They were trying to choose between the two things that these people were accused of. Another person said, you know, none of us are squeaky clean, so, you know, he voted for Kroll. So I don't think that was an issue. You know, Peter Marchetti pushed the idea that he has experience. His sort of tagline was experience that's already proven, and maybe that spoke to people. One person that I interviewed who did vote for Marchetti said that it was important to sort of stay the course and not zigzag and make a big change. That was his feeling about improving downtown, getting new businesses, more job, more work for people in the city. And he felt it was important not to make a big change. So I don't know, of course, why Marchetti won, but he did by a significant amount. He did say that his campaign created a spreadsheet to figure out how he was doing, and they actually came up with the same percentage of supporters of 62% in their spreadsheet.
Wow.
So
that's NEPM's Nancy Cohen live from Pittsfield, where Peter Marchetti will become the next mayor. You've been doing excellent coverage in Pittsfield. Nancy Cohen, thanks so much for giving us your insights and your reportage during this election campaign. Now you can go home.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Nancy.
It seems like that's a thing that's been happening across the board. Like, there's a little bit of fear of, like, there's change in these opponents that are coming up, and then general fear of that change, that it is too much. That, like, how does a town progress if we're not getting, like, a little bit of injection of that change that is proposed?
What's your take on that? Ryan McCollum, political consultant.
Yeah, so my take is it's tough. It's tough to beat an incumbent, and that's why what we saw happen in Greenfield is kind of surprising. But at the same time, Mayor Wettengardner is a newer mayor, right? And
but
so,
a 20-plus year veteran of elected office.
Sure. But still, like a new mayor, and she had that burger, right? And so we don't have
it was a burger that had an expletive, but a non-expletive expletive.
Yeah,
earlier,
so, you know, and we've disclosed this before. I came in to help John a little bit with PR after what happened to him.
John Kroll, who was running for mayor.
And that race was 100% the folks who want status quo versus the folks who don't. And I think that folks in Pittsfield weren't ready for a change, right? And if John Kroll didn't make necessarily the case enough for a change and actually ran on it, right? Like he ran on, he is status quo and I'm the change.
Which is strange because he was also well entrenched.
100% he was. And so,
right?
And John's become a different person in the way that, like, I wasn't a John Kroll guy back in the day, and he's had some things happen in his life, and so now he's got a different wife. He's reinvented himself as kind of a change agent, and I don't know if Pittsfield bought it, right? Like, so some people didn't buy it, and they're like, well, you were the city council president yourself, and you were close with Marchetti, you were close with Mayor Tyre. Like, who are you now to act like you're some kind of outsider? Right? And it's like, you're part of the establishment. And actually, in debates, Councilor Marchetti said, hey, you were establishment. You were status quo, so who are you to call me status quo? And so
it's also worth noting that Marchetti will become the first openly homosexual mayor of a large city in Massachusetts.
Well,
and
Holyoke
not
of this particular large city. And I'm just saying, not in all of. I'm saying it is a large. It is a large city. Oh, believe me, I know Alex Morris.
Like, also, like, if we're getting into that, like, the lieutenant governor.
The governor, not the lieutenant governor. Yes. That being said, it's still, for a city that is like Pittsfield, this is some sort of a change. It's,
absolutely.
Clee Smith, you found some interesting data in the other race that we were talking about that had to do with change in some of the numbers that are coming out of the Greenfield mayoral election.
Yeah. So WLLP we're getting numbers that. Ginny disorder is definitely one. It's 73%.
Really?
Yeah.
According to WWLP,
Well, according to
we're
WWLP,
trying to process as much
yes.
info as we can.
With 100% reporting, 73% is not the discrepancy I was expecting.
Yeah, that's a track meet.
What's your take? You're visibly shaken by that number there, Nicole LaChapelle, mayor of Easthampton, who doesn't have to run again and worry about this sort of thing happening.
No, I don't. Greenfield, I mean, that percent, that margin is really stunning. And it's reminded me of Mayor Claire Higgins, once Mayor Claire Higgins.
Of Northampton.
Mm-hmm. Of Northampton, who said, if you are in public service or you in elective office long enough, all the people you said no to, they come together around that no and go right at you. And I'm just wondering, with all the issues, all the burgers, is that what Roxanne was up against? And it just was enough, one after the other. And then this recent article around the equity in houses and how Greenfield was going to go forward with that, it could have been the straw.
Yeah. It's hard for small city mayors. They don't have staffs like you would imagine.
Right.
They don't have cabinets. They don't have all these department heads making six figures, right? And so when you have the burgers, it's you. It's really you.
Yeah.
It's not like
next election night we're going to have NEPM election night coverage.
Yeah, I guess
we're going to give people the award. This mayor got a burger, but
I want a sundae. I want ice cream.
All right. Well, we have candy, but that's about it.
But it is tough to be an elected official and have to make hard decisions, and it's easy to be a challenger and to like tilt at those decisions, right? Like tilt at the armor of those decisions that they made because you didn't have to make that decision.
I'm curious, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, and feel free to say, you don't want to answer this question. A lot of the political establishment of Greenfield who came forward, including John Merrigan, who's a long-time known political operative in Greenfield, writing opinion pieces for the Greenfield Recorder, calling out Ginny DeSorger in her political naivete. We had, Khalees and I, many, one retort after the other about Mayor Roxanne didn't like something Ginny DeSorger said on our show. Ginny DeSorger didn't like something that Mayor Roxanne said in response to the thing that she said on the show. Do you feel like some of the accusations that Ginny DeSorger has leveled against the mayor are from political naivete, or is there actual there?
I don't think it matters.
Really?
Because what she's saying is resonating with voters. And I don't, John Merrigan know very well, and he certainly has the pulse in that county. I think, though, when you've got a candidate knocking the doors and very consistent with the message and following up with solutions or other paths, that is very, it's a I don't want to say automatically winning argument, but it's really appealing on those doors. People like lack of media, especially up in Greenfield. That's how it goes. And I can't wait to see what that city council looks like and if there's not connections.
And the assumed mayor-elect, she kept up fundraising-wise. And that's another small-town mayor thing, right? So as a small-town mayor, you don't have multi-million-dollar developers coming into your town. You don't have this place where you can go and get $40,000 actual donations, right? And so having that war chest isn't the same when you're the mayor of Greenfield or the mayor of Easthampton or the mayor of Agawam as it is the mayor of Boston or Springfield even or Worcester. You're not allowed to build up that war chest because you don't have the access to the same type of money in a small city.
One interesting thing I read this week in the excellent newspaper, the Monte Reporter, in the town that I live, that was contributed by Doug Stotz, who was a Greenfield High School graduate and a former chief analysis officer of a Fortune 500 company, now living in Wayland. It had everything to do with the donations that he was seeing through the political contributions and the findings there. That one of the things he happened to say in that column is, among private Greenfield citizens, Councilor DeSorger had 2.5 times both the funds raised and individual contributions than Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner, who raised $6,268 in campaign funds from 47 separate Greenfield residents. Multiple contributions by a single person were combined, compared with 15,000 from 123 individual residents. So, these small numbers in a small town like Greenfield can be very telling when you don't have polls and can be the game changer when it comes to election, as it appears to be the case in Greenfield.
I do have a question for our in-studio consultant.
Ryan McCollum, a question from Easthampton Mayor
She looked at
Nicole
me and
LaChapelle.
pointed at me.
Would love to know your thoughts about what's going on in Holyoke right now.
Yeah.
And with Josh Garcia, are we seeing coattails on the city council races? I mean, I know the numbers aren't finalized, but when I just took a look at my old hometown numbers, I noticed there were newer names. And just wondering if you see any connection or...
Again, I'll have to disclose, Josh is a client of mine. He's been doing very, very well as mayor. And I think that's across the city. And he's all about Holyoke. And he's a Holyoker. He talks about it a lot. And, the PACs, there's PACs that we talked about earlier tonight. And I think that PAC worked hard and smart. And I think folks want to support the mayor. And the mayor actually, who is not a political guy, who his actual strength is his weakness. And I give him a hard time all the time. His strength is he isn't political. His weakness is he isn't political. So sometimes he makes decisions, and I'm like, what were you thinking? He wasn't thinking the political decision. He was thinking what's best for Holyoke. But this thing, he got political. He picked his people, and he picked the in each ward. He was like, I want this person, I want that person, I want this person. And he put his coattails out there, and we'll see. Now that he gets the council he wants, there's going to be councilors that he helped win that at some point, you will know as mayor, they'll disagree with him.
Absolutely. And I actually, going back to Chicopee, John Few was on city council. I think at one point was president. And one thing he always says is I was a member of city council. I walked into the mayor's office and it was like I was never on city council. Yeah. And that does happen. But I do give Josh just, kudos left and right for sticking his neck out there when he didn't have to and saying this, and this person. It was bold. I will also say Mayor Garcia has been an excellent partner as mayor, not just to Easthampton, but the surrounding communities. Where really his leadership is fantastic.
Well, we're going to take another little break really quickly, but since we're speaking about city council, Khalees, you've got some data on the Northampton city council race, where the at-large race is probably the most hotly watched race.
Indeed, and it looks like there's 2 at-large seats that are up, correct? I do believe.
I think there are 2 at-large seats.
Yeah, there are 2 at-large seats, and it looks as if Marissa Elkins and Garrick Perry are leading the pack with 41% and 36% respectively. David Murphy coming in way behind that. So,
and again, that's somebody, a long-time political counselor in the city of Northampton, and 2 younger and up-and-coming politicians there in that city. We think we might have some details on what's going on in Springfield, and we definitely want to check in with Dusty Christensen / Dusty Rhodes, professional wrestler in Greenfield, to get his further assessment on what I think is probably the most dramatic race in this political season locally here for mayor in the city of Greenfield. But we're going to take a quick break here on live election night coverage on 88.5 NEPM.
And vote for Mr. Rhythm, the people's choice. You'll be happy with them.
That's Delight, if you were wondering, a campaign ad from the 90s.
I love
Delight, too.
I'm
Monte.
Great. Lady here is still awesome. I am Khalees Smith.
Roller skating music.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely. And
right?
that is Ryan McCollum. We're also joined by the mayor of Easthampton, Nicole LaChapelle, giving you live results from races here in Western Massachusetts. We'll give you the rundown of what we know. Again, if you're tuning in, the big drama in this race and the most unexpected appears to be that Councilor Ginny DeSorger will be the next mayor of Greenfield by a large margin, unseating incumbent Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner. But we do appear to have some results from the City of Homes, Springfield, Massachusetts, from our very own NEPM's Adam Frenier. What do you got, Adam Frenier?
Well, I'm at Dominic Sarno's headquarters, and a few moments ago, word came out that he won, and according to his chief of staff, Tom Ash, won big, and that's off a huge celebration here. There was chants of Sarno. The mayor's due to be here coming up in a little bit. We still haven't seen final unofficial numbers for tonight yet, but the campaign believes they've got the votes and plenty of them to get the mayor another term and get him to potentially 2 decades in that office.
So when we last spoke with you, it seemed about 50-50 with the votes, but with only 50% of the wards checking in. But as Ryan McCollum and others said, what wards would be coming in afterwards would be the determining factor here. And it seems, would you have any specific numbers or any general estimates right now, Adam Frenier?
Well, the final numbers have just come through on the city's website. Dominic Sarno finished 57% to Justin Hurst's 42%. So that's 12,000 votes to almost 9,000 votes at this point. So a big win for Dominic Sarno tonight as we just got the official numbers.
All right, that's NEPM's Adam Frenier. Not as close a race as it may have seemed earlier this evening, but it appears that Dominic Sarno will once again remain as mayor of Springfield. If you're listening, Mayor...
Still closer than I was expecting that to end up being.
Yes.
Really?
We would hope to have the mayor of Springfield on our show, and the invitation remains out there. He would politely declined to come on as a candidate, but as
more politely than others.
Yes, as the returning mayor of Springfield, we would love to have you in anytime on our show, The Fabulous 413.
Oh yeah, and the council across the board, it looks like is I'm looking at for my ward because I'm curious.
In Springfield,
and it looks like Malo Brown has retained his seat for Ward 4.
Let's go back to the city of Greenfield, which we've mentioned before is the most dramatic result of the evening, it appears, where Janita Sorger appears to be the mayor-elect, unseating incumbent mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner. Dusty Christensen, who is covering that race there. Tell us what the latest is from what you're covering in Greenfield.
It doesn't look like it was just a victory here for the DeSorger campaign, but a landslide. When she took the stage to very ebullient atmosphere here at Hawks and Reed in Greenfield, where I still am. There were chants as she read aloud that her campaign had won 73% of the vote in the city. Those are not official numbers. I have yet to receive those numbers from the city clerk's office, but it was clear that there was a big shift here in the city of Greenfield. I spoke with Mayor-elect DeSorger after I was able to peel her away from some of her supporters in a very loud room here, and she said that she could feel that change coming when she was knocking on doors. She said she knocked on some 2,000 doors in the city, that she had a people-powered campaign endorsed by local unions in the city and workers, and she said she knew that victory was coming as she started to knock on those doors, and that sure was true. She has won in a landslide tonight.
We were talking earlier about the impacts that council races can have on these mayoral races, and I had mentioned before that the Greenfield City Council at many times was at odds with the mayor of Greenfield. How much do you think that was a canary in the coal mine, I guess, for what was going to be happening with Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner, specifically, I think, in response to their decision to cut such a large amount of money away from the police budget, while the mayor wanted to continue to support the police chief and all of the things that the police department was doing in that city?
The policing issue was definitely front and center at both of these parties here tonight. I was at the Wiedegardner campaign's party earlier at Smitty's Pub. The police chief, Robert Haig, was there in attendance. We mentioned earlier on the air that a jury earlier this year found he discriminated against a black officer in the department. The city has appealed that verdict. And following that, as you mentioned, the city council did cut $400,000 from the police budget. This has been an ongoing issue in Greenfield. And talking to voters here at DeSorger headquarters, it's clear that it was a decisive one. A lot of people said that they were frustrated with the mayor's handling of the police chief and policing in the city. And when I spoke to Mayor-elect DeSorger and asked her what her first priority was, she said, "We have some cleaning up to do." When I asked her whether she was referring to the police chief, she said that time will tell, but that racism has no place in Greenfield.
It's interesting that this police chief controversy started under a mayor that predates Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner. It spans the entirety of her time as mayor, and now will ultimately be decided by the person who is the mayor-elect of the city, known as the town of Greenfield.
Formerly known as the town of
city,
Greenfield.
formerly known as the city, known as the town of Greenfield, Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Your eyes are rolling. This is all true.
I love Greenfield.
This is all real. This is
I love Greenfield. That's cool.
I have been around to watch it transition to a mayoral form of government. So this is.
Well, it's the Massachusetts Constitution with all these charters, and this is a town like I'm a Long Meadow guy, and we had our town meeting tonight, so I couldn't vote. I literally couldn't vote. And I had to talk to
Sorry.
the town moderator, who's awesome. Her name's Rebecca Townsend. And she was explaining to me how it's more of a direct democracy to have town meeting. And it's a legislative body, actually. And I'm not voting. But I couldn't vote today, right? So, like,
Sorry.
but it passed what I wanted to have passed.
Well, we're glad for you. Then.
And East Long Meadow's getting a new high school.
There you go.
That passed. Yeah.
That's political commentator Ryan McCollum. Thank you, Dusty Christensen, who's been covering this for us in Greenfield. Any final thoughts before we let you go here?
I think it's just an interesting moment here in the city of Greenfield, and we're going to obviously, as reporters here in the area, continue to watch what unfolds in the coming months as Ginny Disorder takes over as mayor and decides what to do next with the city and some of its biggest employees. So we'll be sure to follow it.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I called you Dusty Williams. That is actually my porn name, so that's totally where I got confused.
I said that other word, I got in trouble. But it'll be interesting. So the mayor, the mayor's law department has that appeal.
That's right.
The mayor-elect.
Yeah. The mayor.
So the mayor-elect's law department will have that appeal, and it's a financial thing, right? And so, like, is she going to support that appeal, or does she have any say?
According to Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner, when this story was breaking, it is the city's insurance company, as opposed to, I think, the mayor's office directly.
Okay.
So I think it was a little bit of beyond Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner's control. You would know more about this as a mayor, Nicole LaChapelle.
I mean, Massachusetts being so special, all 351 municipalities have their own rules.
Right.
Yes, it was probably the insurance company is representing the city, but the person who signs off on that settlement or next steps, it goes to the mayor's office.
Right.
It's not the city attorney, but certainly, I mean, unfortunately, I've had that experience to make decisions. It was up to myself and the mayor's office of what we were going to do. So I would say, depending on the timeline of that case, it could be mayor-elect.
So could the mayor-elect drop the appeal and pay this person out, if that's what she thinks that person deserves?
Well, and then there's the idea of civil service playing into this, too. So there must be some contractual needles to thread with this as well. So that was part of what Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner was saying, that some of this is beyond her personal control. And, I don't know every jot and tittle of how these contracts work, but
it'll be a Mr. Smith gets to Washington moment for the mayor-elect.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. And as we have continued to mention, that it's the most surprising results of the election night, at least so far, and I think probably we've only got half an hour left, with Ginny Disorder unseating the incumbent Mayor Roxanne Wiedegardner. We're going to take a little break in a second here, but we'll give you a rundown of what we know so far. We're joined by our political correspondents, and here are what is what we know so far. It's been a long night. See, I'm stumbling over my words.
So John Few retains his seat in Chicopee.
By not a wide margin, 42% to 47% with the challenger city councilor Delmarina Lopez. As we mentioned, Roxanne Wiedegardner, the incumbent mayor, unseated potentially by a close to 75% margin by city councilor Virginia Disorder.
50% margin.
Okay, but 75 to 25, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Incumbent mayor Jennifer Maxey seems to have won an easy victory in North Adams. That is not overly surprising.
Christopher Johnson wins the seat in Agawam over Cecilia Calabrese.
Mayor of Westfield, we believe McCabe is, well, we don't have official results on that one, I don't think as of yet. And Springfield mayoral results, NEPM is reporting that Dominic Sarno, the longtime incumbent mayor, has won with a 51.9% to 47.4% margin over city councilor Justin Hurst. We'll see what other results we can get you before our election coverage is over, and we give everybody an hour of jazz before they're forced to listen to our show from earlier in the day today.
When we didn't know who was winning.
Right, and if you're mad at us for taking away an hour of classical music previously when we started the show, we promise you we're not here to take away your jazz. This is an election night coverage here on 88.5 NEPM, and we'll be right back.
Cost me too much money, and it probably ain't enough to get me through election day.
That's Fly Love at Election Day. here on 88.5 NEPM on election night. I'm Monte Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith.
And we are joined by political consultants Ryan McCollum and Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. What was that question?
Did Blaze Foley write that?
I think maybe. Yes.
See, there's my old school country music now. I'm a big Blaze Foley fan.
Nice.
And one of the major critiques I have about you and your administration, Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, is that you are a huge Grateful Dead fan.
Yes, I am. I remember not too long ago, Cancer Connection.
Grateful Dead Thunderdome, as we call it.
Yes. So I still have pictures of that day.
But that is not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the election results. And we've talked a lot about the local mayoral results. We've given you what we know about the council results. You do have a council race and a school committee race in Easthampton, unofficially, but from the official head of the city of Easthampton. What do you know about the race in Easthampton at the moment?
At large, there was no contested races, but in District 5, Tamara Smith took a nice lead and has held it. It looks like she will be District 5 counselor, taking over for longtime counselor Dan Rist. She was running against Jared Hinkle, who is a well-known name, well-known family in town. Tamara was a counselor a little while ago, so that's interesting. Our last seat in school committee is all up in the air. Three newcomers.
Real tight.
It's very, very tight.
And you're the chair of the school committee in that town or no?
No.
But you are on the school committee.
I am. I have one vote.
Oh.
I'm okay with that.
Certain cities, the mayor is the chair of the school committee, and others, they're not involved at all, and others, they sit on the school committee, right?
Right. And I think sitting on the school committee, having the one vote, not being a presiding member, is the way to go, since I'm the one who does the budget for the whole city, each department, including schools.
Mm-hmm. Right. So basically a tiebreaker, kind of.
You're like the vice president of the school committee, like how the vice president is the tiebreaker in the Senate. No, not like
she
that.
She votes every vote, not just tiebreaker votes.
Okay.
Every vote, right?
Yeah, I vote.
So Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, what happens when the numbers are this close? Like literally, there's about 40 votes between the person presumably in first place and the person in second place. Like it is fractions of percentages between the top three people.
For school committee?
Yeah, for school committee.
I think that surprises me, but also I think it tells us the folks who are on school committee through some very tumultuous times, some of them through COVID, took positions very strongly that were not the public's choice perception, have all done very well. I think it's a great affirmation of their work. The candidates I'm seeing that are neck and neck are newer folks to politics in Easthampton and represent mostly a progressive outlook for schools, have become very involved in schools, and have been active in the community. But seeing those three names fight it out for that last position and being so new, I think it's very interesting because there were other names on that ballot that were well-known, long-time Easthampton residents. And again, I'll go back to the insight of Ryan, is fresh air, fresh look. Mm-hmm. People are ready for it.
And it's worth noting, and can't really go without being said, that the mayor of Easthampton was involved in a controversy surrounding the superintendent of schools of Easthampton, Vito Perrone. There was a comment that had to do with ladies. We talked about it at length on this show. It was a part of a...
and Monte, you just gave it legs again, so thank you.
Well, I need to give people context.
That thing had legs.
Because if we have the mayor of Easthampton in here, we can't just say that she can say whatever she wants without the context. That's my job, to kind of provide fair and balance, and that there were people in town that wanted to recall, and it did have to do with the school committee and what was going on in the schools. So it's interesting to see now that the top three that are rising to the top there do represent, I guess, more progressive end of town, as opposed to some of the people who were asking for you to be recalled or wanted to go with a more traditional, perhaps, superintendent candidate.
No.
Am I wrong about that?
No, you are not. But I'd also, looking quickly at city council numbers in Easthampton, again, very close for coming in, which I did not expect at all. And again, I think it's an affirmation of the work done by that council, which has become very independent and has its own voice, which is fantastic. And the city's okay with that, and they want it to go forward. And they they voted very close for our incumbents there.
We mentioned early on in this broadcast, and you're listening to live election night coverage here on 88.5 NEPM, that all politics is local, and we are in an off-year election when it comes to some of the major federal elections and national elections. There is, of course, a presidential election next year, but Mayor Nicole, you had some strong reactions to races that were coming in from other parts of the country as a potential bellwether for what we may expect in some of those higher-profile elections slated for next year.
Yeah, I mean, the abortion access question out in Ohio won overwhelmingly. That is a purple or red state, depending on you talk to Ryan or myself. But
who thinks it's purple and who thinks it's red?
I think it's red.
I think it's red. It's red. I went to school there. It's red.
There you go.
My wife's from Ohio. My in-laws are purple as they can be.
Like they're
like Minnesota Vikings, man. They like this Romney guy. I remember my father-in-law like walking on the beach. He was like, this Romney guy. I don't know. He just seems too like rich for me, and he's like a conservative guy. You know what I mean? It's purple.
And now Romney
it depends on where you are,
liberal.
But that's true of everywhere. Yeah. We're seeing that like with the state elections too, like the results that are coming in for the state Senate seat for Worcester, where
what are the results there?
It looked like the Republican candidate has won.
He's a popular guy.
Yeah,
Peter Durant. He's a popular guy.
It's like that happens everywhere.
Yeah. But it's like Dobbs, and I don't know how.
The Supreme Court decision that has to do with abortion.
Yes. So it's the Dobbs decision.
Yes.
And my younger brother, he's way smarter than me, and he's a sports writer, but he's gotten engrossed in politics. And, like, he keeps, like, Dobbs. And, like, I don't know how Republicans can get out from under Dobbs.
Well, we saw it in Kentucky. I mean, Bashir kept his seat, and I thought that was surprising that he...
And that's a red state.
We'll all agree
that's a red state.
Very much red.
And you talk about love to know what canvassers in Kentucky and Ohio heard at the doors about these very important races. And are they a bellwether or not?
But we also saw that earlier in Kansas. Like Kansas, of all places, put abortion on their constitution. Like that was not expected.
And even before Dobbs, like they were losing. Like Trump lost the popular vote to Hillary. He lost the next 3 elections, and then Dobbs happened. And so now it's like compounding. But I'll talk about my stripes. Like you still get scared, but at the same time, if you look back at what has happened the last 4 or 5 years, like the Republicans have been out the back of the woodshed, right? We've been taking them to the back of the woodshed for multiple elections, but we're still nervous.
And yet, when you look at recent polling numbers,
because we have seen things happen. Like there's inherent trauma there. That's a real response.
But recent polling numbers, even this week, show that Biden is not doing well in some of these swing states that will be proved to be very important next election season.
So my thought on polls. Not that I do read these, but you really have to look in depth. What are the crosstabs? How are the questions asked? What was the order? There's just a lot. It's so early.
It's early.
It's so early.
But also, like, bad polling numbers are good for you sometimes.
Yeah, because it
motivates.
Exactly.
It motivates people. And
exactly.
So, like, and I went to Marist College, and MIPO is like, Marist and Quinnipiac are like battle. Like, who's the better polling place? Like, we're Alabama and... Not to give football analogies, but...
You did play football, I hear from your bio as well.
40 pounds ago. But so like to the mayor's point, like, first of all, polls are hard to trust. It's hard to get anybody's real opinion on a phone. You call them landlines, you call people's cell phones, you're getting... Or if you're trying to get their opinion from... the internet, right? Like if they're on their laptop. Like it's really hard to really track anybody anymore. And sometimes a bad poll, you put it out this early because, like, people are like, all right, are we going to motivate our base? Like, here you go. Biden's down.
Another race that it appeared you reacted to was in Virginia, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. Was there something that you were checking while we were in the midst of our local coverage from Virginia that piqued your interest?
Democrats held in Virginia, and that has been up and down and all around, and
it's the Nova spread. It's the Nova spread.
So that was, I didn't expect to see that. Loving that, seeing that. I mean, we really need a more functional, both House for sure, but also Senate. I mean, we have had the vice president come in and be the tiebreaker, which is, you hold your breath on. But again, I mean, we'll see, folks who are much smarter than me and are really involved in those national numbers. How do they connect to the local?
Right.
And the question around abortion access and it just taking that strong lead, really interesting. Full disclosure, all of these races have gone the way I'd love to see.
But those questions, when you put questions on a ballot, especially a statewide ballot, you're usually trying to do these coattails. We talked about the coattails that Mayor Garcia had at a micro level in Holyoke. And usually you put things on the ballot to bring issue voters out. And the right has been putting abortion on the ballot and getting creamed by it.
Yeah.
And so now people are probably, who are pro-access, we're going to look around like, do we put it on the ballot? Right? Do we want it on the ballot in these states? And then the right's going to be like, do we want it on the ballot? Do we want to put this on the ballot and lose because women are coming out and people who, I don't want to say aren't insane, but,
Am I the only one trying to be nonpartisan in this?
I think it's more that, a lot more people are realizing that they have a lot more skin in that game than they realized.
Yeah.
And that, that's just, it's healthcare, and it affects way more people than they initially realized.
And you'll see some funky results when you go to some of these red states where they probably hold abortion access questions, but some far right senator gets reelected. And you're like, who voted for so-and-so and also voted for abortion access?
Well, I mean, I go back with the abortion issue coming up again from the right. It brings me back to the Republicans' campaign around family values, right? And at the end of that election cycle, it didn't land, and I think we are seeing it again now. I just wanted the health care aspect of abortion access, lots of education, and I think that's stuck, and it's kudos to all the advocacy groups out there, as well as folks on the ground educating people, this is about health care.
Yeah, and back to polling. The polling shows that it's not a partisan issue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like guns, too, right? It's not a partisan issue when you look at, the polls, and most people feel a certain way regardless of party.
Right. That is one of our commentators tonight, consultant Ryan McCollum, as well as Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. We've got about 15 minutes before we're going to wrap this all up, but we're going to give one more big breakdown of all the local races, specifically mayoral races, and what we know about council races in the 413. We'll hear from NEPM's own Springfield's Elizabeth Roman, as well as Adam Frenier, who has been covering the Springfield race. We'll give you, I think, very quickly, once again, the rundown of what we know so far before we take the break, that John View, the incumbent mayor of Chicopee, will remain the mayor of Chicopee.
McCabe is remaining mayor of Westfield.
As Jennifer Maxey will remain the mayor of North Adams.
And Christopher Johnson has won the seat in Agawam. And then the upset has happened in Greenfield, where Ginny DeSorger has taken the seat from Roxanne Wiedegardner.
We'll get our final thoughts as we wrap up election night coverage 2023 here on 88.5 NEPM.
Oh, and Marchetti won Pittsfield.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to say that.
We keep forgetting about it.
Welcome back to live election coverage here on 88.5 NEPM. I'm Monte Belmonte.
And I'm Clee Smith.
We're joined by political consultant Ryan McCollum, as well as Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, who is not running for election this year or any other year, according to her, her last term in office. And one of the races that we've been following throughout this whole election season is in the city of Springfield, both for mayor with the incumbent Dominic Sarno and the challenger, Councillor Justin Hurst. We've got Adam Frenier, who has been at Sarno headquarters, and we've got NEPM's Elizabeth Roman here in the studio with us. What more do you have from the Sarno headquarters, Adam Frenier?
Well, Dominic Sarno a few minutes ago made his first appearance at the campaign headquarters this evening to just rousing applause and a lot of Frank Sinatra in the background. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet was the song that was playing behind, and he shook a lot of hands. He posed with former Springfield Mayor Mary Hurley, who was in attendance, and then he spoke with reporters for a good 10 minutes and said he was very grateful to the voters. He was very grateful to his family. He really went out of his way to talk about his volunteers and the operation that they put forth to get him reelected. And then he focused on some of the things he wants to get accomplished. He says he wants to continue building new schools in Springfield, continue coming up with economic development opportunities that create jobs. And I said, Mayor, you're going to end up being at this almost 20 years. What keeps you going? And he said, sometimes there's issues like COVID or other things like that, but then you get a nice note that you help somebody and they're thanking you or something like that. He was very grateful. He was humble, and he was shaking every last hand of the 150 or 200 that were crammed into that office tonight.
That's NEPM's Adam Frenier, who was at Sarno campaign headquarters after the victory was announced. NEPM's Elizabeth Roman, who is from Springfield and has been covering this race as well. What's your takeaways, both from the mayoral race and from the council race?
Yeah, born and raised. I think, I think a lot of people expected Sarno to win. Everything happened with the controversy with, her campaign, the October surprise, we call him. But honestly, he got 57. Last time he won by 75. So I think Justin really gave him a true race. He spent $500,000 on this race, Sarno did. So that's a lot of money dedicated to this campaign, which shows that he took Justin as a serious candidate, regardless of all the controversy that was going on. And so, yeah, I'm excited. So if I sound loud, that's why. It's my hometown. As far as city council races, you've got Kateri Walsh coming in. She's like the godmother of the city council. She's been on for so long, very well respected in the Forest Park neighborhood. Her family is very involved in the city. But then you have a surprise number 2 coming in, Jose Delgado. Jose was raised in the North End. He is very well respected in the Latino community, but also in general. He worked for Governor Baker's administration, and he was endorsed by the governor.
By Governor Baker?
By Governor Baker.
Okay.
By Governor Baker, yeah.
Governor Baker. He works for the current governor.
Uh-huh. Well, perhaps not anymore, now that he's a counselor.
Well, I don't know.
See.
Yeah, he. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And then you've got, Tracy Whitfield, again, another incumbent coming in, Sean Curran, and then Brian Santinello, who was a very long time city councilor and kind of popped back up into the race, and there he is at number 5 spot.
Ryan McCollum, you're also native of Springfield. Your take on the council?
It was interesting. So Jose did really, really well. His background, like I said, he worked like, Elizabeth said, he worked for Governor Baker, but he currently works for Governor Healy. He worked for Mayor Sarno. He worked for MGM. He worked for UMass. His wife is a school teacher. He has 2 kids.
Principal, though.
Yeah, principal.
She's a principal.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. So, he is Springfield, and Springfield has a huge Latino population. He's the only Latino at-large counselor. And so I thought it was going to be a fight between Jose and Jerry Martin, who came up on the scene, and I think probably came in 6th. Did he come in 6th?
He came in 6th, yeah.
Yeah, and Jerry Martin's from a very, very well-established Irish family in Springfield. And I thought Jose and Jerry were going to fight out for number 5, but Jose worked really hard and came in number 2. And so that's great. It's good to see. And, Jerry was an impressive kid, and we'll see next time. The demographics, I'm frank about politics. Mm-hmm. So Brian Santinello is a former city councilor. His last name is a last name established in Springfield. And he was the only other Italian on the ballot with Dominic Sarno. And so, there's coattails, right? So we talked about coattails earlier. There was probably some Sarno coattails with Brian Santinello. When people went in, they go, Sarno, Santinello, right? And so Brian's back on the council. He's a smart guy. He has a lot of institutional knowledge when it comes to Springfield. But there was a demographic thing there.
I mean, I think we saw in a lot of races this idea of the institutional knowledge, incumbency versus looking for change, a fresh perspective, and how that balances. And that fresh perspective, that fresh air, had a pretty good night in Western Massachusetts. There were lots of surprises that I didn't see coming. And I think that's very interesting to see what happens in 2 years when we're looking at all of these local races.
Well, Dominic will get 4.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find it funny that he's like you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, you've been in office for 2 decades now. I think we've seen a lot.
He could be he's the Rolling Stones of mayors.
For 20 years
have
now.
Your number 1 record this late in your career.
Not to get back and harping on council races, but like looking at these results and like updating, and there's still no word from Amherst. There's no word
we
from
have
Amherst.
not talked about Amherst at all. Yeah.
I mean, talk about a city at a very strange crossroads.
There's a lot happening there.
I mean, a progressive city, that's what it's known. It's Somerville of the West. And within that, political climate, there's a lot of contention back and forth.
Yeah,
what
back
goes
to the
next.
schools, right? The
Back to
schools
school.
have
Yeah,
become
the
like
schools are
a
a big
culture
thing right
war
now.
thing, right? Like wherever it is, whether it's progressive towns or conservative towns, schools and school boards and those meetings have become, back to the national politics leaking into local politics, a place where the culture wars are actually fought. And it's interesting to see.
Absolutely. And you're not seeing any meeting in the middle. In Amherst and a lot of other Western Mass municipalities, but I'm sure that's across the state. And looking at Worcester and that seat, really back and forth, and we've seen. I'd love to know, Ryan, is that red or purple? Out
Worcester?
Out
Worcester County's red, but Worcester itself isn't red.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. We got an update. She's like,
The last few minutes left.
I didn't realize that this was on the ballot, but Chicopee just voted to make the mayoral term 4-year instead of 2.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was 60% on this ballot, and like that's an interesting game changer too.
As a mayor who had to go through that, Nicole LaChapelle, tell us how much of a game changer that is in just the little bit of time we have left here.
Oh, I mean, complete game changer. Grants, consistency in City Hall, consistency with the City Council. It's huge. It's so important. Because you're 6 months in that 2-year term, and you're thinking about what am I doing, and how do I get reelected to get 1 or 2 projects through.
But does it also make it that much harder for somebody with a little bit more energy who wants to bring in a little bit new vision into the city to try and unseat? Doesn't make it that much harder to unseat the incumbent?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons, but I think there's more pros when it comes to just governance.
Fair enough.
Right? And so, like, the people elected somebody for 4 years to be their chief executive officer. You don't want that person, whether you agree with them or not, having to think about running for re-election that next year. So every other year, so they always have election on their mind rather than thinking about their city for at least have some comfort level to do what they think is right and not think about running for re-election.
I agree. And the other thing is 2-year term, those who are in a municipality job, a municipal job, or in other parts of an elected office, it's 2 years. They'll wait you out. I mean, and that's a real problem. They will just wait you out.
Yeah. We have just a couple minutes left, but let's do a little roundtable. First with Elizabeth Roman from NEPM. Big takeaways from this whole election season, something that you think stands out either tonight or in the campaign as a moment to remember.
I mean, I think for me as a Latina woman living in Springfield, really important that Jose Delgado is number 2, coming in new. And I think that Marina gave an amazing race for being such a young woman, a new counselor. I thought that was great.
So Marina Lopez, who gave a legitimate challenge to the incumbent mayor, John View. Ryan McCollum, political consultant, your big takeaway this election season?
I guess on her coattails, on Elizabeth's coattails, is there's tea leaves, right? And so the folks they're doing better. There's breath of fresh air kind of at your heels, but at the same time, there hasn't been huge changes. And Jose, who's also, like I said, he's my guy, he has a little bit of that establishment, right? He worked for a governor. He works for a governor now. He worked for Sarno. And so there was a comfort level with that change. And so if you can combine those, like, hey, I'm a breath of fresh air, but by the way, I have experience in state government or city government, you can combine that and win. So we'll see what happens 2 or 4 years from now.
Mayor Nicole LaChapelle?
Just quickly, I would say the tea leaves, the new fresh air coming in, we're about to see some generational changes in who gets elected in, I think, Western Mass, across the country, even Boston, who's already started, and it just gets more and more interesting over the next 2 years, especially with bigger races coming.
I'll give you the rapid-fire rundown of mayors as far as we know it. John View remains mayor of Chicopee. Virginia DeSorger will become the new mayor of Greenfield. Jennifer Maxey is the mayor still of North Adams. Dominic Sarno still the mayor in Springfield. Michael McCabe, the mayor in Westfield.
Christopher Johnson in Agawam. And
we keep forgetting Peter Marchetti in Pittsfield. Thank you so much for joining us for live election night coverage. Thank you to Ryan McCollum. Thank you to Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. Thank you to the entire NEPM news team who've been out and about